Hi everyone, and welcome to another edition of Sober Bliss Meets. Today I am joined by the lovely Liz Horseman. Again, we've chatted before, and today we're going to talk about Liz's Instagram, website, everything to do with the alcohol spell, because that is what you're passionate about, aren't you, Liz?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's been very much my sort of life for the last couple of years since giving up alcohol. Yeah.
Yeah. So you stopped a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
and do you just want to briefly explain a little bit about why that
Yeah.
happened, what you did?
Yeah, so I gave up alcohol in July 2018. I sort of had a what I call a soft rock bottom, my
Yeah.
Brian Adams of rock bottoms, I call it, where instead of having where a lot of people get to, such a disastrous stage in their life with alcohol, where maybe a relationship is broken down as a result of it, or they've lost a job, or awful things that we've all heard about. And I didn't get to that place in order to stop drinking. It was just simply realizing that alcohol was just taking up too much of my time, and that I was spending a lot of time drinking, and that the other life aspirations I had kind of gone by the wayside. I'd stopped really caring about anything other than partying.
Yeah.
And I partied really hard, and my life had really been very much around alcohol. I work in music, and the
Mm.
music industry is really alcohol heavy and addiction heavy. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people who experience that kind of thing, and it kind of just got to the point where I just thought, I wonder what it would be if I could stop this. And it was hard, but I did stop. So 2 years ago that was.
Yeah.
And when I stopped, what it felt like was like I'd woken from a spell,
Yeah.
which is why I've called everything, my Instagram, my website, my blog, the alcohol spell. It felt like I had been sort of enchanted, like living a life where I really truly believed that alcohol was positive and normal and essential. And when I woke up from that, it was like, oh my God, all the time I've wasted.
Yeah.
So that's sort of like how I arrived at this point.
Yeah. So tell me then, what amazing things have you achieved over the past 2 years since you've not been living under the alcohol spell anymore?
Well, I don't know about amazing things, but I kind of refer to it as an upward spiral. Like,
Yeah.
I think you sort of get that as well, Gail. It's that sort of feeling of um, the domino effect of giving up alcohol. That you,
Mm.
you do that one positive thing, which is hard. There's no question it's difficult, very difficult. But when you see yourself as the person who can do it, you then realize that you are also somebody who could do other things, like
Yeah.
take up a new hobby or fitness regime. Like, I now do yoga, and I was never a yoga person before. And I know not everyone loves yoga, but it just kind of suits me.
Yeah.
And I've been writing a lot about it online, and lots of people message me now saying, oh, you talk how I think about alcohol. I had never seen it like that, and now I really kind of get where you're coming from. And helping other people through that is an
Mm.
amazing gift that I never really thought that would be part of my journey, much like yourself. So I think there's a domino effect, isn't there, of giving up alcohol?
There is, yeah, like a ripple effect. Like
Yeah.
you do one thing and then you can do another thing. And I think, like you said as well, when you realize that you can't actually escape the trap of the drinking and escape the cycle, and it is hard, when you've done that, you think, gosh, like I can do hard things. So what else can I do? And you feel suddenly really proud of yourself. Well, I did anyway. I thought, oh God, I did it. I'm doing it. So what else can I do? Like you've just said, and it just gives you a massive boost of self-confidence, did in my case anyway.
Very much
um,
so, yeah. I really identify with that. I think it really, because when you see yourself as somebody, like I used to see myself as just, well, bit rubbish. Just I love a drink, oh, I got really smashed again. Oh, I'm really hungover. Oh, I've lost the last 3 days. Oh, well, you're not actually, that's not good for your self-esteem. And
yeah.
I think I started to see myself as I just started to accept that I was a bit crap, that I was a bit useless. And little by little, it erodes your self-esteem. And I hadn't
It
realized how
does.
bad that had actually got. So
Mm.
when you stop all of that and wake up from the alcohol spell, it really does make you see yourself anew. And yeah, it's amazing for the self-confidence, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Even just the little things, which before might have seemed massive things, but the more you do them, the better you feel, the stronger you feel, and the more like your old self, I think you feel. All of this stuff that you had inside of you just comes out, and you realize actually I can't do whatever it is that I
Yeah.
want to do
Yeah,
without this.
and the other stuff that comes out is often bad stuff.
Yeah,
It's not all good, is it? It's like
no,
we didn't just drink to celebrate, and a lot of us drank to forget or to numb pain or
yeah,
to escape the in that voice in your head that says, "Oh, you're not really where you should be in your life right now," sort of thing. "Oh, you haven't achieved as much as you should have achieved," or "That person's doing better than you."
mm,
Drink drink just cancelled all that out. And so when you stop drinking, that all is there, isn't it? And
yeah,
so having to deal with that stuff has also been a massive step for me. I've had to
mm,
deal with all sorts of things that I hadn't realized I was actually numbing,
yeah,
and overcome some anxieties and some fears and some realizations. So my mental health is so much better than it's ever been
mm,
as a result of that. And I think, you know, you're like me, so much in this community of people who have gone through it, that we see that all the time, don't we? People saying,
yeah.
I didn't realize that I was actually hiding those negative emotions, and now I've dealt with them, I feel so much better about myself, you know.
Yeah, I know. And that is the problem with alcohol. We think that it helps us to cope with all of these feelings, but actually it buries them and it makes everything worse, because not only are you numbing out from them and not dealing with the feeling or the situation, on top of that, you've got the guilt and the shame and the anxiety of drinking in the first place. Um, so yeah, we are completely, when we're drinking, under the alcohol spell.
Mm,
And I love it that you see it in this way and
yeah,
not a problem with the person, which is
yeah.
often the case. It's a problem with alcohol. Alcohol is the problem, basically.
I think
Um,
that's so crucial. I think that's
yeah,
really very much where we've all got to get to with our relationship with alcohol, is to understand that alcohol is the baddie, and
yeah,
it's not you. It's not your um, poor willpower or your weakness or anything, or a disease or any of that stuff. It's alcohol. Alcohol is the problem. um,
yeah,
so I think that when you come to look at society's relationship with alcohol, you can quite easily see it as a spell, because everybody you talk to who drinks, um, most people I speak to who drink, talk about alcohol in terms of it being normal,
yeah,
in terms of it being essential, just what something that you do. Well, you've got to have a drink if you're having a party, or you've got to have a drink to relax, or you've got to have a drink to celebrate, to commiserate, to concentrate, to, you know, go to sleep, to wake yourself up in the evening. It's like, it's so much a part of our lives. It's woven its way into the fabric of our society.
mm,
And nobody is talking about the fact that it's a group 1 carcinogen alongside tobacco
yeah,
and gamma radiation.
yeah,
And we don't see it like that. We see it as just something that we all do. It's totally normal. And that's why I just think everyone is under the spell. We've got to wake up. It's like Sleeping Beauty, where the kingdom slept for 100 years,
yeah,
and everyone's just asleep, sleepwalking into illness. And I know so many people who have got very, very ill, who
mm,
have been very heavy drinkers, and a whole array of awful illnesses, from cancer through to stroke. And there is a confirmed connection between cancer and stroke and heart disease and obviously liver cirrhosis. And alcohol, there is a confirmed connection. We know that there is no safe amount of alcohol to drink,
Yeah.
but we treat it like water, like air. It's just normal.
Yeah. Yeah. And it comes in pretty bottles
Yeah,
with not proper warnings like we do with cigarettes and things these days.
yeah.
It's glamorized, it's promoted, it's encouraged. And the thing that worries me, the thing that I don't like is that if you don't drink, if you choose not to drink for whatever reason that might be, then you're the one is seen as odd. You're the one that's seen as having a problem with alcohol. I was thinking about this the other day when I was out for a walk. Like, I don't have a problem with alcohol because I don't drink it. And it just kind of hit me in the face like, oh my God, I don't have a problem with alcohol. When I was drinking, I had a massive problem with it. But now that I'm not, I don't. It's like, I don't know, bananas. If you eat 10 bananas every day, you've got a banana problem. But
Yeah,
if you don't eat bananas, then, you don't like them. They don't do good things to you, but you don't
yeah.
have a problem with them.
Well, you're so right. I think about vegans. Okay, if you're a vegan and you go to a dinner party and you're sitting next to someone, you'll say, "Oh no, look, I'm not having the meat because I don't eat meat. I'm a vegan." That person wouldn't say, "Oh God, have you got a meat problem? Like, did you kind of like, were you addicted to meat? Oh dear, poor you." It's just kind of like, okay, you choose not to eat meat. That's now a very accepted thing. But with alcohol, it's such an issue for people.
Yeah.
And I think that, we're slowly getting there, but it does feel like we feel like we're on our own a bit, don't we, as non-drinkers?
Yeah, we do. We do. So what is your take then on why we are under this alcohol spell? Well, not you and I, but people
Yeah.
who drink. Why
I,
is
well,
it?
yeah, I mean, I think there's a very good comparison that you can make to smoking and drinking.
Yeah,
And so if we look back to the 70s and 80s and into the 90s, and everybody smoked.
yeah,
Um, and smoking was allowed in advertising and sponsorship. So when I grew up, Marlboro sponsored Formula One
mm,
cars. It was always,
yeah,
and Gell and whatever else, and Rothmans was all over the Formula One cars, and um, everyone in all of the films smoked, and so we all smoked because we all believed that. I don't know about you, Gail, but I smoked.
yeah,
Um, and my parents smoked, and we just were brought up as smokers. And then obviously we accepted that smoking kills 7 million people a year. We probably should accept that it's 1 in 2 smokers will die, I think, of smoking related diseases, or certainly will suffer with smoking related
mm,
diseases. The odds are bad. We've got to stop this. So we've
yeah,
got labeling on cigarettes, and now if you've looked at a cigarette packet recently, it says there's a picture of someone dying. I mean, there's horrific stuff. Okay, I only gave up smoking 3 years ago. um I was determined, but
yeah,
I think pictures on the packet in the end did make me go, I can't do this anymore.
yeah,
What happened with smoking was that the governments and the lobbies and the scientists all got on top of the tobacco industry, and eventually the tobacco industry lost. They lost the
mm,
fight. Alcohol has learnt from tobacco, and a lot of people who are at the head of the alcohol industry used to be involved in tobacco, and they have learnt, don't allow other people to set the agenda. You've got to get ahead of the game. So Alcohol Incorporated has set up the bodies that will give the government advice on regulations.
oh
Okay,
wow,
but that's how they've done it. So you've got in the UK Drink Aware, which
yeah,
is owned by I think it's a charitable organization, but may have charitable status, but nonetheless it was set up by the Portman Group, which is basically the alcohol industry.
mm,
Drink Aware is the body that advises the government on safe amounts of alcohol. I
dear
mean,
me,
just think about that for a second.
yeah,
Conflict of interest doesn't even cover it. And
mm,
so they have advised the government that there's no need to put any health warnings on bottles. Don't tell people that they're going to get cancer. Don't tell people that they could get that this is going to be a high risk of stroke. Don't tell anyone that there's no safe amount of alcohol to drink. Just put a little logo on the bottle that says drinkaware.com, because they reckon that when you go in to buy a bottle of gin and you see that logo, you're going to go online and you're going to search for the risks associated with drinking that bottle, and
Yeah,
that will be enough. I mean, as if.
I
And they
know.
just say on there, drink responsibly. That's what they all decided. They got together and said, what warning can we give? We'll just say drink responsibly. And if you
Yeah.
think about those two words, one of them is drink. So
Yes.
don't not drink. You know, it's a racket. It's basically a racket. And this is why we all believe, you know, we're all intelligent people, but we do believe that our governments and the people in charge will give us good information. So the information is drink. So, you know, and so we do, and we drink in crazy amounts. And 3.3 million people a year die from alcohol related illnesses.
Yeah, I know. I know. And I think it all comes down to money at the end of the day, and keeping us suppressed, if you like. You know, you and I were just talking before there about what can happen when you wake up from the alcohol spell, and how much energy and drive and passion you've got to go after things that mean a lot to you. And can you imagine if the whole of the UK suddenly woke up?
Yeah, good. Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
the
a
injustices that
scary.
they would suddenly say, we can't allow this, you know,
Yeah,
actually, it's easier to just sort of say, oh, someone else will deal with it. But yeah, as you say, if everyone woke up, what would happen?
yeah, yeah. It's
Mm.
like being in the matrix, I find sometimes, like being brainwashed even. And it's, yeah, I mean, I've never really thought too much about this, but it's quite a scary thought that we're all being brainwashed and suppressed and led to believe by the government that it's okay to drink. And then when you decide not to, then you're the one who's got an issue, which
Yeah.
is, it should be the opposite way around.
Yeah, the disease, the idea that you have something wrong with you because you drink too much alcohol is one of the most insidious and insulting theories
Yeah.
uh, ever thought of. It serves the alcohol industry again brilliantly, because
Mm.
it means it's not them, it's not the product they're selling, it's you. It's
Yeah.
your problem. You've been born with some kind of like messed up chemistry in your brain that means that you can't really drink because you have a problem,
Mm.
and it just deflects any flack from them, and it's completely wrong. The
Yeah.
point about drinking too much is that the more you drink, the more you will need to drink. We know that. We know that the brain is wired to crave good feeling, and once it has something that feels good, it will want more of it. And even though you'll feel guilt and shame and your life might be falling apart, there comes a point where actually just your brain is set up to just keep on chasing those relief or the good feelings.
Mm.
So that's just how we're wired. It's not a disease.
Yeah.
um, and then there's this massive recovery industry that works off the back of the disease model as well, all
Mm.
of which was made up by Alcoholics Anonymous in the 40s, I think it was.
Mm.
uh, and it's a faith-based system, got nothing to do with science again. So how they came up with a disease model in a faith-based system is
Yeah.
another crazy thing about this whole situation. So
Yeah.
I think we all have to keep coming back to alcohol. Alcohol is the problem. It's not us. It's nothing wrong with us. It's alcohol.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because then it takes the responsibility away from outside sources. And I suppose then the responsibility lies with us. And I don't know how you feel about this, but I realized that it wasn't my fault that I got into the state that I did. I knew that alcohol was taking over my life. I was relying on it, but something inside me told me that actually it's an addictive substance, and therefore, if I remove the alcohol, then I should be able to get my life back together. And I did, thankfully. But we need to, as you say, recognize that it's a problem with alcohol and not with us, because I think that it can keep a lot of people stuck if they
Mm.
believe that it's a disease, that they can't control it, that there's something wrong with them. It's not your fault, I don't believe, because it can happen to anybody. I mean, I never thought I would end up being the type of person who would get in the car drunk with a child,
Mm.
but I
Mm.
did.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's my responsibility to do something about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's key. And also knowing that we have that in us somewhere. Yeah, we might need a bit of help, but we can drink, so surely we can not drink.
Yes.
I think.
It's great. I think you're right. That's a good way to put it. You choose to do something, you can choose not to do something,
Yeah,
even though it's very hard. My dad died at 52 of alcoholism, of liver failure. He'd always been an alcoholic all my life, and he very much believed in the disease model, and so did I, because I was told that dad has a disease, he can't help it.
mm,
Um, and I believe that he would possibly still be alive today if that hadn't been the way that he was being treated, or through all the rehabs that he went through. If
yeah,
actually someone had said, there's nothing wrong with your brain chemistry, there's not something that you were born with, you're addicted to a highly addictive substance, and you can make you or you're strong enough to make the choice to make that change. It'll be hard,
yeah,
yes, but not impossible. So
yeah.
I think that you can choose to make that change yourself, can't you?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. You did, I did, and thankfully so many other people have as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And I think it's really empowering as well to actually wake up and think, oh gosh, I do have control of my own actions. I can do something about this.
Yeah.
I found it very liberating. And now I look at alcohol and I think, oh my God, what were you doing? Why? Why?
No.
Hindsight's a wonderful thing, obviously. So, what would you say to somebody who is kind of thinking, hmm, this makes sense. What do I do?
I would say, depending on how much you drink, because some people drink, like my dad was a first thing in the morning drinker, a couple of bottles of whiskey a day, whatever he would be drinking. And
Mm,
he could just stop drinking, and you need to make sure that you don't ever just stop drinking if you're a heavy drinker, because
yeah,
it could kill you. So that's first things first, and seek medical advice. um, that aside, which should be a given, I guess, I think anyone can stop drinking. I think anyone can get on top of it. And if you're thinking to yourself, I think it's probably taking over my life, and I think it's probably having a negative effect, and I'd like to do something about it, then the first thing to do is to make that commitment to yourself, to give yourself the gift of a better life. Do you think that you're worth that? Do you think that you're worth more than just living clock watching, waiting for the time you can have another drink?
mm,
Is your life worth more than that? Ask yourself those questions. What's stopping you, I guess? What's stopping you from making that change?
yeah,
um, when I think back to when I first started to think that I had a drink problem, which was probably about a year before I actually stopped,
mm,
there was all sorts of things stopping me from doing it, and I guess it was all basically fear.
yeah,
um, Fear of not being socially interesting, not being able to socialize without alcohol, and letting go of my identity because it was so much a part of who I
mm,
was.
mm.
What stops you? What did you have a kind of a period of time of wanting to stop for a long time, or did you suddenly go, I'm stopping, and stop?
I went through a period of time as well, yeah. And I can't remember how long it was, maybe a year as well, roughly. And I would often read blogs whilst drunk, thinking, I want to be that person who's just getting through the day. I want to be that person who's gone out for the first time and not drunk. And I want to be that person who wakes up feeling good. What can I do? What can I do? And I was always kind of looking for all of these tips and ways to do it.
Yeah.
And but not that didn't involve stopping drinking, I suppose. I thought
Yeah.
if I read enough of this information, then I'll wake up one day and just not want to drink
Yeah.
and not drink. Obviously, that didn't happen. I finally realized that actually, if I want to change my life,
Mm.
then I'm going to have to make some changes. And that change has to be not drink. And it was kind of like, duh, if you know what I mean, glaringly obvious, but yet something that I struggled to get my head around for a long time.
Because it's such a big spell, that's because it's
Yeah,
so powerful. It's almost like sometimes if you're a drinker, you may as well be told stop breathing. I mean,
yeah.
it's not an easy thing to get your head around. But isn't it easy once you've done that first step? Then
Oh,
you're like, it's making that first step. Not to say that living without alcohol is easy. I don't mean that's easy. I just mean the first step is the hardest part, isn't it? And then once you've
yeah,
made that first step and you've said, right, I'm now not going to drink anymore, it becomes more accessible. The idea of it becomes much more doable.
yeah, yeah.
It's making the first step. And for me, that was my first thing was to go to AA, and I still talk very highly of AA, even though I have issues with their model. I
Mm,
still talk hugely highly of AA because I think the idea of a group of people coming together and with all their guilt and shame and laying it out in front of each other and saying, I have a problem, I need help, and I
yeah,
can't do this on my own, is
yeah,
that was so empowering to me. So I do think sort of finding like-minded people, I think would probably be my first recommendation to somebody.
yeah.
Um, and obviously, as you know, the Instagram community is amazing, the
Yeah,
sober community.
it is.
So AA may be outdated recommendation now, because I think actually Instagram has been a wonderful thing for me
Mm,
and a lot of people. So I would say to find other people who are in the same boat and reach out and say, hi, I'm doing this too, and I'd like to join your accountability group sort of thing.
yeah, it is accountability and support
Mm.
because I was lucky. My husband stopped at the same time with me. So I had him by my side the whole way. And he would encourage me, he would support me, he would congratulate me if I got through the first day, second day, or whatever. And that really helps lift you up because in the beginning, I don't know about you, but I felt pretty crap at first. Um, all the emotions, the physical thing, and I was just like, oh God, is this what it's really like?
Yeah,
But it's just a short amount of time. But
yeah,
having somebody there to check in and say, how have you done today? Did you drink today? How do you feel? Keep going.
yeah,
That was so important. And if you can do it like on the end of your phone and know that if you send a message, even if one person gets back on and says, keep going, you've got this, you can do it,
yeah.
that is a massive boost
It
to
really
keep you
is, isn't it?
going. Mm.
Because you do feel lonely in the world of alcohol. Where everybody else is drinking and everyone thinks it's so normal and you're weird for not doing, that's quite a lonely place, isn't it?
Yeah,
So I think you do need to find other like-minded individuals who get where you're coming from. And it's just lovely to read about other people saying, yeah, and see your experience reflected back in what they're saying. You just don't feel like you're going so mad, do you? Um,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think one of the reasons that it's lonely is because we have this idea that you have to hit rock bottom in order to stop drinking alcohol. You
mm,
should be an alcoholic, you should be pouring, I know it's a cliche, but people have this idea that you'd be pouring vodka on your cornflakes. Um, and so therefore, if you haven't got to that point, then it can feel, and I felt like it was almost embarrassing or shameful to be giving up alcohol. Like
yeah.
I felt like it would be so much easier if I had turned up to the school gates pissed and everyone had seen it, and then they'd be like,
A
Liz,
reason.
Liz needs to give up alcohol, we'll support her. But because I never did that,
Yeah,
it was more nuanced than that. It was more inside my mind and my experience. It was harder to, it felt like I needed to sort of justify it all the time to everybody. um
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that feels like quite a lonely place. So
It
yeah.
does, it does. And I've had experience of that as well, like with my mother-in-law, for example. She's one of these people, I mean, she accepts that I don't drink, and she doesn't intentionally try and force alcohol on me, but she's one of these people who just can't get her head around the fact that I would choose not to drink because I wanted to, not because I had to.
Yes.
And that's a big barrier, I think. And as you say, the loneliness, because everyone else is around you, they're drinking and you're not. And it kind of adds to that feeling of, gosh, there must be something wrong with me. But
Yeah.
really, there's not. You're just choosing to not slowly kill yourself, which is
Yes.
nothing weird about that.
Yeah, yeah, you should be congratulated, and that's what you've got to do for yourself. You've got to be telling yourself, wow, I'm doing an amazing thing, I'm doing a brilliant thing. And you have to keep, and I think I did feel like that, as you've said, you know, wow, I can't believe I'm doing this. It does feel
Yeah,
like, it does give you, you do feel better, don't you, for it.
yeah,
um so yeah, I think that having that sort of, the idea of being on your own because you don't drink, but also worrying that you'll be boring because you don't drink. And that was a big thing
mm,
for me. I worried that, I thought of myself as an interesting, fun person who was always up for a party, always had loads of parties, very much a party person. Oh, I just can't, I'll be boring then, fine. And I accepted that when I stopped drinking, because I so
mm,
badly wanted to stop. I just thought, fine, from now on, I'm just going to be boring. Um, Actually, the opposite is true. And when you look around on the internet and you look on Instagram and people's blogs or whatever, the coolest people are giving up alcohol. Young
yeah,
people are not drinking anywhere near as much as we were when we were young.
yeah.
And actually, it's really quite hip to not drink alcohol.
It is.
So, you know, that should be the last thing on anyone's mind, whether this is going to be interesting or cool, or whether they're now just going to be a boring person who stays at home all the time. Actually, interesting, cool people are giving up alcohol all the time.
Mm,
And the people who are stuck back in that old belief, that I feel as though they're left behind. That's how I feel. I feel those people are now being left behind in an old world that I
yeah,
don't live in anymore.
yeah, yeah. Because if you think about it, there's nothing more boring than sitting on the sofa all night with a glass of wine watching telly that you can't remember anyway. I did nothing when I was drinking. Come 3 o'clock, whatever time it was that I started, then I wouldn't go anywhere or do anything. I might
No.
have a nap, get up again, but that was me.
Yeah.
And surely that is more boring than getting out there and doing things and meeting people,
Meeting, yeah, meeting people. God, I've met so many people since stopping drinking.
Yeah,
We've met, well, we've
yeah,
met online. You know, I've talked to so many people I'd never have spoken to before. I've done so many interesting, new, strange things. I've got a podcast like you've got yours, and you're mentoring people, and you know, our lives have expanded in ways that we just never dreamed of before, haven't they?
yeah,
And you know, so the idea that your life would shrink because you don't drink is so untrue. The opposite is true. uh,
absolutely.
and,
Yeah.
and 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 what is more boring than listening to drunk people talk?
Oh,
I mean, honestly.
God.
It's tedious.
If
So
you can understand them in the first
yeah, the
place.
repetition. Yeah, you've told
Oh,
me that. Yeah, you've told me that, you've told me that. And then they
yeah,
tell you again when they're sober, because they forgot that they told you when they were
yeah.
drunk. Yeah, I know, you've told me that 4 times now.
Yeah. So basically, what we're saying is that all of the ideas that we have about sobriety are just completely untrue. Don't believe the traditional sober is a judge, sober is boring.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to be worrying and thinking about drinking all of the time when I stop.
No.
That is just completely not true.
True.
And in
And I
fact,
think,
yeah,
sorry, Gil, and I think that your experience of you know, when when you first stop drinking, socializing is hard because
yeah,
you're in the old, you're still under the spell to some extent, because your brain's got to catch up with your reality of not drinking. but after a while you get on top of socializing without alcohol,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you find actually it's really not necessary to drink. I never even think about it anymore. I don't know about you,
No,
but it's just not in
no. Mm-mm.
headspace.
No, it's not. And I think that's one of the most liberating things because when I was coming up to stopping drinking, I was thinking about it all the time, more than usual, really. It was just playing on my mind, the pros, the cons, the negatives, the positives, all of that. And then when I made the decision to stop, and I often use this Michael Jordan quote where he says, once I made a decision, I never thought about it again.
Yeah.
And that was just so true for me. I went from one day to having it on my mind all the time to the next day when it was like, okay, that's it, I don't drink anymore. And the
Right.
headspace
Yeah.
was just amazing. I did have to think about, okay, I'm having a craving. How am I going to get through that? What can I do instead?
Mm.
But it was never the endless repetition and
Yeah.
circle of, oh God, how much can I drink? When can I drink? What can I drink? When shall I stop? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
That just disappeared. And for me, that was the biggest benefit, I suppose, not having my head taken up with all of this thinking about drinking
I
anymore.
I think you're right. It's amazing, isn't it, how much time drinking takes up of your life that it's not even while you're drinking. It's
Yeah.
actually all the rest of the time as well, thinking about when you'll be able to drink and or
Yeah.
whether you should have drunk or the regrets about drinking. When that goes, you do have so much more space in your brain. So yeah, it's a different type of preoccupation because you still have to get over the cravings and the
Mm.
triggers and all of that, but that's only I think that passes within the first 3 months. I feel like that sort of desperate need for alcohol, I think that starts to go. It's
Yeah.
different for everybody, but for me, by the end of 3 months I wasn't really desperately in need of alcohol anymore. I'd got
Yeah.
on top of that side of it, and I was just then able to live my life, which was just wonderful.
Yeah. That's it. It creates so much space, doesn't
Yeah,
it, for better things? It
yeah,
really does.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, yeah.
Ooh.
So what we're saying is alcohol sucks.
Yeah.
Don't drink it
Yeah.
and get on and live a happy life.
Yeah. And if you're struggling or if you want help and support, then go to Instagram, for
Yeah,
example, and don't be afraid to reach out to anybody because the sober community as a whole, I find, is just a lovely bunch of
it
people.
it is. I mean, if you search for hashtag sober or sober living, or obviously come and follow me, the alcohol spell.
Yeah.
Um, I know that you offer your services, don't you, to coach people with sobriety, which is amazing. There's a bunch of people offering that, and then but if you start an account anonymously, which I know a lot of people did when
Mm.
they stopped drinking, they set up a thing and it hasn't got the picture of them on it, and they just say, sober mummy or whatever. I know it's been taken, but whatever you want to call yourself,
Yeah.
and then just saying day one, you know today's my first day. You'll be amazed by how, if you use the hashtag so people can find you, you'll be
Mm.
amazed by how many people will say, well done, great job,
Yeah.
how's it going, and you'll feel lifted by it. I
Yeah.
think it's the modern AA, really, isn't it, I suppose?
It is, yeah, without the whole religious.
Yeah, without the 12 steps and
Yeah.
the bad coffee.
Yeah.
Bless AA. Bless AA.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I think you're right. You have to find a way that works for you, don't you? You have to feel comfortable in it and happy with it and take a bit of time, read all the blogs, just get on Instagram and just have a look, see what's going on, see who's out there, see what people are doing, get as much information as you can. And yeah, reach out, follow Liz, ask for help.
Yeah.
But go for it, I think. Don't think about it too much. I think that was my problem. I don't know about you, but I was overthinking a lot and my thoughts got in the way. But when I just said, okay, that's it, I'm going to do it, then it kind of fell into place and it got a lot easier. So I suppose my top tip would be if you want to do it, then just have a go. Don't
Yeah.
worry about what might happen 10 days, 10 months down the line. Just take that step.
Yeah, I think that's true. I know so many people who contacted me early days in their sobriety, and people who were saying, I've done 3 days. I just don't know if I can keep it up, but I'm going to do another day. And 3 months on, I speak to a lot of people who I sort of spoke to right early on. So I've tracked so many people's progress, and they're saying, can't believe I'm 3 months in. I'm
Yeah,
never drinking again. I feel better than ever, blah, blah, blah.
yeah,
But they just had to start. They said, well, I'm starting. I don't even know what I'm doing, but I'm starting because I just know I don't want to drink anymore.
yeah.
And it is just make that step
Mm,
and take it one day at a time. That is the way to do everything in life, actually, one day at a time.
yeah,
Um, and days make years, and before you know it, your life is in a different place.
exactly, exactly. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you, Liz. That's
Well,
so
thank
inspiring.
you. Well, thank you, Gail. It's been lovely. And can I say, you look amazing.
Oh, I do. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you really do. You look fab. You always look lovely.
Oh,
You look especially lovely today.
oh, thank you. I think it's because I had my hair done.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, you look fresh from the salon.
Yeah. No, I do feel really good actually. I'm like you, I think, just 2.5 years more or less. And I feel a million times better than I did 2.5 years ago. And I
Oh,
know that I look better because I was like
yeah.
just overweight and lethargic and I know when people think, oh, it's a bit shallow about your appearance, but I feel happy with how I look. And
Yeah.
it's so nice to be complimented on it because I was never complimented before. And I
Yeah.
do think it's an important thing, how you look and how you feel.
You feel good if you feel like you're
Yeah,
on top of things, don't you? And you
yeah,
feel like you've got some sort of some balance, I think.
yeah,
That's it. And I think, yeah, no, looks aren't everything, but it is nice to look in the mirror and see a bright, shining sort of like person coming back at you. It's nicer rather than looking in the mirror and going, oh God, don't look at that.
yeah,
So much
yeah,
rather that.
yeah. Oh, so thank you. You've made my day.
Yeah. Good. Excellent. I'm pleased.
Okay, any last words of wisdom before we go?
I think just keep communicating. Actually, I think that's
Mm,
the communicate. Connection is such an important part of sobriety, and the
yeah.
opposite of connection, I think, is addiction. I do think that is very much something that I related to when I first read that. So
Mm,
connecting with people is a very important part of sobriety. So yeah, reach out to people. That's what I would say. Get talking.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Liz.
You're welcome. Thank you, Gail. It's been lovely to chat.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah.